Careful, Jax. Careful, Jax.
Yeah, look at Jax. Look at Jax.
Walk out. Yeah. Just walk back, okay?
Yeah.
Who get 2 seconds? Who 2 seconds?
5 seconds.
Look, AD.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Hold on. Look.
Look, AD, guys. I'm done.
Just
Hit front, Trish.
Trish.
Yeah.
Trish my flash.
Blabber over the wall there. Shattering strike into the crash down. They found the enemy jungler. They drop the depth charge into FBI and force him into the stopwatch as Berserker goes into the back. The Kai'Sa is diving and C9 is thriving. A double kill for their AD carry as FBI tries to get one, but immediately falls to the counter-strike damage. Ignar wants to get out, but there's just no way.
Renekton. Just slowly, guys. Slowly, Renekton.
I'm TPing.
Kai'Sa's only target here.
Yeah. Just hit front. We win.
Okay, I'm good.
Now Blabber's stuck in the middle of 4. C9 has made a crucial mistake. C9 continuing their chase now as Dokla and FBI try to kite back into their own jungles. Ben gets himself back out with a battle dance as Berserker takes out Dokla. FBI attack with a Void Seeker and a bouncing Boomerang Blade. A shutdown over to Berserker as Ignar tries to escape, but it's a triple for the C9 AD carry.
Yo, Jax.
No hook, Nautilus.
Jax.
Okay.
Hit him front.
Yep.
Oh,
Keep going, round the flash.
Nice.
Nice, good job, guys.
Dokla with the flash out. Sven doesn't hit him with the dredge line. Dokla's still on the run. Palafox swoops in from the side. Flash is killed off. Dokla just outplayed him, and Energy's played him. Everybody on C9 drops dead.
Is there no flash?
Is there room?
AD no flash. Play flash. Give me two.
Oh my god.
Hey.
Package is delivered. They've immediately got their first kill. But Cloud9 are taking a lot of AoE. Double kill back up into Berserker. He's going forward with the feathers. He'll let him fly. Palafox is done. Dokla will not be able to find a return kill into the Cloud9 marksman. And with him and S falking over the wall, I think C9 just got it.
Welcome, guys. It's the final chance, the final countdown to make it to Newark. It's Golden Guardians versus Team Liquid. How'd you guys feel about that overall? Like, just watching back the comms.
That was disappointing, man. That was promised a close series. Energy beats all the good teams, and then they got 3-0'd. I don't know. It's a little sad.
I don't know what that says. Does it say more about C9 or about the enemy team? I don't know.
Or NA. Wait, let's not answer that question.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, if you guys are watching for the first time, it's Mark, Emily, and myself. That's it.
Some other guy wandered on.
I'm just the lone man out.
Welcome,
Someone
Treats.
appears once, they get a huge intro. The next time they come on, they just do nothing.
Give them nothing.
I always like to keep people on their toes. They expect Jat? No.
We got a new man in there.
No, that is Jet. Just wait till see how long it takes them to notice.
True.
Going back to the series, I think 2 things happened. One, NRG, once again, we've seen them do this in regular season, definitely got in their own way. In a few of these games, they'll definitely want to have, for sure, Game 1 and Game 3 back, because I think they were in winning.
What is this EG clip doing in here?
No,
Wait, what the hell?
There were Cloud9
is
we're
facing
going
them,
through.
just putting it out there.
But yeah, it was kind of sad to see NRG fall 3-0 to C9. I think we all were kind of expecting a little bit of a closer series. But C9 going for their 3rd title, now seeded directly into Grand Finals in Newark.
Yeah, I said it to Mark as well. It's kind of weird how C9 is just really good at winning games. They're kind of close. They're like a back and forth, and then they just randomly win it. I think NRG definitely have a lot to prove in the next series, and C9 is going to look to clean up their games a bit for the finals as well.
First of all, Mark, you seem to be the head of figuring out whether a series was close or not. For a 3-0 series, was this a close 3-0 series? It was a banger.
It was a banger, but it was as close as the EG one, I'd say. Like, there were times where Energy had leads. There were times where, like, they need to make 1 or 2 more good plays to win the game, but they were never actually on the precipice of really winning one of these games. There was maybe that one with FBI hitting the turret is the closest anyone's gotten to beating C9 yet.
That's
and then the Ricochet happened.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the Ricochet. We don't talk about the Ricochet.
The Ricochet incident. That being said, I mean, Energy and C9 are already qualified to Worlds, so it's interesting now with all that talk about Worlds to see who's actually qualifying for it. So let's throw that one up there, because for the winner of tonight's series qualifies alongside these names.
Yep.
You're already technically qualified for a Worlds qualifier, the double qualifier, one would say. But in this case, yes, winner of today's series would belong in the names of LNG, BLG, C9, Weibo Gaming, JDG, Genji, and NRG. So first things first, like what would that mean to these teams? Like, can we, obviously you're not looking ahead to this, but it's actually just exciting to see these names.
Where's Europe? Never mind.
A few weeks late, yeah.
Just a bit.
Another break.
They'll catch up. They'll catch up. Any takeaways from just seeing these names, Emily?
I mean, China qualified pretty early.
True.
For those that don't know, Gen G is they're already in the finals, so they either qualify on points or they qualify by winning yet another LCK split. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really strong pool, I think, shaping up coming out of LPL and then LCK. I am most curious to, and I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but every time I talk to someone about the LEC teams, they have kind of no idea who's going to slot in fourth. Right now, the common consensus is kind of mad.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have a strong opinion on who we're going to see coming out to face the loser of today's match.
I mean, I think the cool thing is that after this long break, it's kind of hard to reassess the teams, I think. Everyone can kind of say that, yeah, G2 probably should win the split in theory, but then after that, it's kind of like everyone's had 3 weeks of prep, right? And the patch has changed a lot as well. So it's kind of up in the air, and that's what also makes it very exciting because the NA team versus the 4th seed EU, if it's Mad again, they better pop off.
Yeah, they have
The
to.
grudge match.
Oh, no.
I'm praying for Mad as an NA fan.
Oh my God. Well, a few things as well, like hearing from M&S, who's obviously going to be in Newark, and a lot of players about their personal stories, like the fact that they're going to Korea for the finals, like basically, you know, being able to play finals in front of a home audience next to like how much would that mean to players like M&S or Gori in this case? Like, you could probably speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Gori is a really interesting case for me because I think going to Worlds means a lot for Gori. He's been trying to get to Worlds specifically. MSI was actually his first international competition, as we see his debut with Kangwon, and then the one lone game he played on T1. He was one of, in a long line of mids that was kind of started as a backup to Faker, was considered very prodigious, but then has not, every time he's kind of swapped teams, whether it's been in South Korea, over in LPL, where he was on EDG, only played in Demacia Cup, I think, because he was a backup to Scout. Another backup to another original backup to Faker. So it all connects back. I think coming onto this GG team, he did say, he's like, I want to go to Worlds. This is a major goal for me personally as a player, and I think it would just mean a ton for him to achieve that because of how he's successfully been trying year after year after year to get there.
It was nice to see him step up this weekend, too. I thought I was a little disappointed in his performance versus Energy. He's someone who felt like, in a lot of ways, the biggest early game carry. Like, Licorice gets his counter picks on the top side, but they don't really play around him. It's mostly through Gori's lane that they make the most plays, and they weren't able to get that done, so you can see much better performance versus Dignitas.
Yeah, and when Gori and River are on, kind of GG is on as well, I think it's kind of like the EG Jordupin effect for GG. If mid and jungle are ahead, they always do well. And for Gori, as you say, I think he's a really strong player when he's ahead as well. He has a lot of pressure on the map. He has a lot of just, in general, a lot of confidence in his play. So when he's ahead, he just makes plays all over the map and kind of snowballs. And I think that's going to be very important for them today as well.
Yeah, I think we kind of called it in the Dig series in terms of saying, oh, it's going to be a mid lane party, right? Like, River's probably going to be there, huhi's going to be there. And then today, Pyosik and Core are probably also going to be there.
Yes.
Because I think it's going to be another mid lane party with APA now going up against Gori. And initially when they met, it was the welcome to NA special that kind of River, Gori, huhi like to do. They did it to M&S. They did it to APA. And so I know APA told us he was super hungry for the rematch now that he seems to be synergizing a little bit more with TL as well.
Yeah, speaking of APA a little bit, just because, as you mentioned, in that interview, he spoke about the last time they faced off. He's also someone that just talks a lot in-game, and it seems like there was some clapback from huhi as he actually outed Stixxay's comments. This looks like from Discord.
Yeah, a little leak, but APA is someone who definitely comes from the Jojopyun school of keyboard warrioring, where he doesn't mute anyone, he types to everyone, he's always talking smack, and I think some people are getting a little sick of it.
I think it's pretty funny. I think it adds a lot of hype, and like win or lose, I think it just makes a few comments surrounding it, you know, that we're talking about right now, so I think it's working. Exactly,
and I remember in his first game on stage, he talked about how gives him confidence. Actually, it's one of those things where it gives you confidence and it allows you to kind of want to back up your words. Last time they went up against Golden Guardians, it didn't look so good though.
This is the welcome to NA special.
And he's playing Victor, which is something that like we don't typically associate with APA, where he has like these like weirder fringe counter picks. Even the Cassio, which is technically a control mage, is still a little different than Victor, and they abuse the hell out of him, punishing him on this immobile carry.
You know what I'm also thinking is M&S, wasn't he also on Victor when Gori and River?
Don't pick Victor into that.
It triggers something in their brain. We have to go mid constantly. Waves bouncing back, his jungler better be there.
It was a bit of a come down against, after a great beginning showing. Yeah, they are very different players, as you can see from this graphic. And even the Jace game that they shared, it was clear that like not APA's forte playing into the Tristana.
Yeah, I think another super interesting thing about this, though, is that when we think of APA as a mid laner, we are like, oh yeah, like obviously Trist, Ziggs is probably going to be permabanned against him again today. But that whole idea of like he plays weird stuff, but then look at how many champions Gori has played this summer.
I mean, it feels like Gori just kind of picks up a champs, plays it for a few games, and then is kind of done with
Gets
it,
bored.
then goes on to the next one and just gets bored of that and just keeps going.
Yeah.
I feel like for APA, he kind of has his staple picks and just plays around them.
100%. It's hilarious how defined their champion pool is. Specifically Gori that came in, playing like assassins, for the most part, like LeBlanc and all that. The one thing that is interesting is the fact that the one control mage that APA doesn't play, that Gori does, is the Azir. The Azir that's been so dominant within the meta, but something that he's not picked up yet.
Well, it's something that I think is going to be a true test for APA in kind of earning that world spot and going to Newark and all that, is that you can survive against such a flexible player as Gori, who has, I'll play Lissandra, I'll play Annie, I'll play Azir, I'll play anything, Yeon, and he can, in any single draft, pull something new out, whereas, like you were saying, Streets, you have the APA staples. And if those can work against a player like Gori, then you're pretty much set. Yep.
Yeah, and that also can radiate out as we're talking about this kind of Gori, River, huhi combo, because a lot of the things we are seeing in mid are either Azir and or defined by Azir's presence there, right? Or you go AD mids like Jace, Trist, go into that matchup, pick a Maokai or Ivern, and go with a poke comp off that.
If I'm just thinking of the two teams, I would definitely favor GG for the three-man kind of mid trio. I think the pressure and kind of the execution threshold is a bit higher than that for TL. I think for TL, they've kind of dropped off the confidence, I would say, in APA, and they've kind of just put him on the mage duty, just farm it up, and then it'll be stronger later in team fights. Like, we trust you, bro. And I think for GG, they can really see like a clear window of attacking mid lane, so to say.
I think that's the interesting part. I think a lot of people share your opinion on GG's their trio having an edge. I think what will change that a little bit is the fourth man. It's the AD carry. So I'm actually interested in hearing Stixxay's thought on Yeon in the matchup here.
I think Yeon, he's quite good mechanically. Like as an individual, he's pretty strong, but I feel like he doesn't do that much with the leads that his team gives him. So yeah, I think on that front, I'm given less and I do a lot more with it. So yeah, I think if it comes to late game, I'll show you who the true carry is.
Do we feel like that's a fair critique as he's getting massaged a bit?
Well, I was actually going to just say that Stixxay, if anyone knows what it's like to carry on low resources, it's him. You always have huhi leaving him alone. He's like always behind a little bit of gold, but then he finds the pentakills. He finds these like late game Aphelios carries plays. So he is, I think, one of the best carries on low income in the LCS in the AD carry position. I don't know if that's a criticism that like Yeon gets more resources though. Like I don't know if that holds up.
I feel like Yeon is kind of like aiming in a way where sometimes when he's expected to carry, he just doesn't carry, and then randomly he just pops off in a game where they don't need him to carry. So I think it's kind of the same story there. But I think both AD carries, when given resources, are usually very useful, I would say.
Yeah, I think another thing, going back to what Stixxay said, was like he's not able to make the most of Yeon's leads because Yeon and Core do have a very strong duo lane. They do have a very strong like forward percentage. We know of them as pushing bot. But this idea that TL as a whole, I think that could be extended to a lot of lanes. Like we've seen Summit get a lot of massive leads in top lane, right? And then they haven't been able to convert it due to some of the things that have happened in their mid game.
Is the exact problem that TL had all in spring was like, okay, you get leads, but what do you do with it? There were not just Yeon, Summit had that problem, Harry back then had that problem, Yeon did as well. And so that is one of the areas that they need to level up throughout playoffs, is making sure when you get these leads in these difficult series that you don't let games get away that you should have won.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like when TL is ahead by a slight margin or kind of behind, they just get kind of insecure in the game and kind of bored and just want to look for something. They're just like, we need to find something or the game is not going to work out. So I think if they can kind of just calm it down, I think Core helps with this a lot. When he's unengaged, he kind of sees the opportunities, I think, better than some of his teammates. And I think that'll be super important for them today as well.
We're seeing Pyosik in front of us. I know that we're talking about the mid and late game portions, the troubles that Team Liquid tends to have in converting their leads that they have. But I'm still going to talk about the leads because it feels like Pyosik is the one that ends up picking them up more often. What the hell is he doing? He's playing a 1v1 or something. But I did want to start talking about, as I got a...
You got a wedgie?
No, it's not a wedgie. It's my mic pack, okay? It's to zero in on Pyosik a little bit more. In the loss that they had in the upper bracket, he talked about kind of the confusion about his role on the team. But then figuring that out in the 100 Thieves series, in the next, basically on the lower bracket, being out on the map and being able to impact lanes early. So in this game versus 100 Thieves, I wanted to point out the early pathing that he got. Raptors go straight towards mid, and it's funny because the idea is to impact the pathing of the rel, of Closer. And he just passed through mid lane, harasses this man over here, just to secure the level 2 for Tristana as soon as possible and help him out in this contest. Now, of course, in this case, Poppy's going to be able to do a little bit more damage, but what's important is the fact that APA is level 2. And if this were to be stalled out a little bit more, he's going to get the bigger help. That pushes Closer to the bot side of the map, and that makes, as I push up the mini-map, it easier for the Poppy to pick up, well, lost it, but contested the Raptors, can then move towards the Kruggies right here, and then can secure the bot side quadrant, blue side quadrant of his own jungle. And then just in case if Rel decides to contest his own Krugs, he can later on contest that. But the idea is to help out both mid and top side and just have a slight level lead into the Rel. So in this moment, as I speed this one up, he ends up finishing that clear a little bit and sees an angle because yes, he is the one that helped secure the push for APA early. And as it bounced back, he sees an angle here, and good job on APA that's able to just leave the lane right outside the turret and makes it really difficult for Quid. And here's a big thank you for Mr. Coach, Coach Matt for Team Liquid, is that the Poppy makes it so difficult for the one thing that Azir should feel comfortable in to do, and that's just simply escaping ganks. Good flash, steadfast presence, allows him to get the kill, and now makes it so APA can snowball a little easier. That's the first example. The next one that I have here is simply versus their next opponent. Now, in this case, he had this red ward, this pink ward, out here at 4 minutes into the game, and it just wasn't contested. So you actually could see foot traffic in this area, but was still concerned about, once I blow up the minimap, just in case there is a ward in Tribush. So he decides, with top wave pushing out, that he's gonna impact this top lane wave, and it's simple as can be. Summit's the one that starts the engage, so then Pyosik can come in and help out. So this is one of those moments. This is a very simple gank, pushing around the wave. This is something that we actually expect River, from River I mean, impacting lanes early, being able to dodge out wards just in case. This is something that he did to get the lead here versus Evil Geniuses, and something that they were able to do pretty consistently versus 100 Thieves. So just two quick examples of Pyosik impacting lanes early that gets them the lead that we're talking about, hoping that they don't lose it mid-game onwards.
Pyosik has definitely stepped up a ton. He got his third team All-Pro vote, and he was someone who was maligned a lot for signing with Team Liquid, or Team Liquid was maligned for signing him after that World Championship. People were like, oh, you don't need him. It wasn't all that great. And I think he's kind of paying off for them now in summer after a very rocky spring.
Yeah. Question for you, actually. You know what? You just go for it, just to follow up on his point.
No, I was just going to say, I think for me, I kind of see Pyosik as a defender of lanes and kind of letting TL just win lanes naturally, or kind of getting vision for them and then playing around that.
Yeah.
Whereas I see kind of on the side of GG, they look for the more proactive play. I think in general, GG likes to be the proactive play and TL kind of the reactive play. So I think that'll be really fun to see, especially from the jungle PV today, kind of how they match up and how many like opportunities they try to look for. Because I think Pyosik, when he's playing his A game, he is looking for a lot of opportunities as well, and that's where TL shines.
The opportunities, though, that we have seen throughout playoffs feels like it's mostly around top lane, the one lane we haven't talked about. Yeah. The lane that has probably got them the most advantages, both Licorice and Summit. Any thoughts that you guys have on this one?
It's like Licorice says, top lane isn't an island, it's an us-land. Like all the top laners know. No, but I think top lane is going to be pretty important in this series. Summit absolutely popped off in their win over EG, and I thought part of that was because EG themselves decided, especially in games 1 and 2, through their draft and through their movements to focus on topside, and Summit actually came out ahead on those plays. I don't expect the same thing to happen with GG, because sometimes GG just does leave Licorice alone to kind of deal with whatever matchup he has.
Yeah, I think Licorice is a very smart top laner when it comes to realizing his win condition. I think when he's forced to play kind of safe and take on the tank responsibility or just the soaking responsibility, he does that really well. So I expect that TL will have a kind of harder time playing through top than they have in the previous series. I think that Licorice can definitely be a carry into Summit, but he also might as well just play a tank. So it will be interesting to see from a draft perspective which route they want to go for.
The draft is what I'm really interested in because, like you said, both players have the ability to flex into more weak side, though I don't think either of them want to based on how they play. And both of them have picked up player of the series heading into this matchup. Both of them were the guys that were getting the most wins. Even in the loss in the upper bracket, Licorice got a lot of applause from the fans for saying, hey, he actually had a pretty good series. And so it does feel like it's going to come down to who breaks in here and who's getting the better of the matchup. It might just go back and forth game after game, but someone I feel like is going to bend to the other's will and be like, okay, I can't give Jax anymore. I actually don't have the counter pick for it or something like that.
Yeah, just watching it, this feels like the most interesting lane or matchup to watch, not only because, yes, as you mentioned, both player of the series.
First All-Pro,
first All-Pro versus
second, right?
Second All-Pro. Most improved player coming in from Licorice. And I mean, that award feels kind of like a given because of the spring split. Yes, it seemed like people were calling him like either the worst or bottom 5. And then now he's just the best and most consistent top laner. And to the point of that you made, like how flexible he is, he feels like the switchblade of the team. So any thoughts that you have on that matchup or anything that catches your eye?
I mean, I think the most interesting thing in tracking kind of the Licorice narrative and like why a lot of people did vote him most improved is that throughout spring, people thought he was the worst top laner in the league or like close to the bottom, right? And it wasn't until their matchup, I believe against 100 Thieves, where he's like, I can take counter pick, right? I believe it was like going counter pick. And then they started using this red side strategy that centered around Licorice. And it's like, when is this going to run out? Well, it never ran out, right?
Yeah.
So now you can use his flexibility so much, regardless of what side of the draft you're on, because we've seen him do the LPL, LCK thing where it's like, I'm just going to blind Jax and I don't care. And so we've also seen Summit do that. So it makes it a very interesting matchup that is very interesting for draft specifically, like what Mark said.
I'm going to be so sad if they just permaban Jax. Like one of them's just like, nah, we're not playing this game. I want to see them play the Jax game.
Yeah, I will say, at least from Golden Guardian side, in the Dignitas series, it was just funny to see how on the map Licorice was. Like the TP bot lane to not like initially to set up for a flank, but then just goes for a dive. Like he is a part of a lot of their early skirmishes, whereas Summit, I think, is also the same case, but will look to just try and secure like CS advantages. Like I was like, all right, I'm chipping at your turret. That's so. Anything there in the top lane that like any picks that you think is going to be contested here?
I mean, apart from the Jax, obviously the Cannon as well, I think has had a lot of priority, especially for Summit. I think both top laners also just kind of want to win the game. I think they're not happy just kind of farming and just playing their top lane island, so to say. I think they're both very like, we want to win the map for our team and kind of make our team get ahead in the game. So any pick that can do that, I think will be pretty big. K'Sante, obviously, for Licorice as well, has been pretty huge.
I will say, both these teams, as you mentioned, obviously want to win. Just putting that out there. And obviously want to go to New York. But I've heard they don't feel too bad if they end up losing. Just putting that out there. I want to hear their words on this one, though.
Although I was posting with my teammates earlier that we could sandbag on purpose, get the 4th seed, beat the European team, and then like just go on Twitter and just tweet about how NA is so much better than Europe. So like that might be a thing that happens as well. So we'll have to see.
So like now at this point, everything is good. If we win, we go to the world. If we lose, I think Team Liquid has the best chance to beat the EU team. So
that's what I like to hear.
Your reaction.
That's what I like to hear.
So guys, we're going to see both teams inting for 4th is what we learned there.
I did want to say a follow-up to that is when we had Licorice and Stixxay after their win the other day. You guys had them, and they were just like, yeah, no, we just want to go to Worlds.
They don't want to go to Worlds, want to go to Championship.
Yeah.
As the European double agent or informant, you got to let us know what our chances are.
I mean, if it's Mad Lions, I think it's looking pretty good.
There we go.
Love it.
It's like music to my ears. We talked about every lane or matchup, actually, except for the support position, which feels pretty stacked with huhi versus CoreJJ. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Because they have a pretty storied history so far.
Yeah, I'd say both of them have kind of crawled up to being some of the most storied supports in the league. huhi has kind of done it very rapidly, actually, with his immediate success on 100 Thieves and then now onto Golden Guardians. CoreJJ has been as Team Liquid support for a long time now, but you can see they have both racked up the accolades ever since joining. And most interestingly for huhi, this is his first team All-Pro that he just got this summer. It's the first time he crawled to the top of the support pool, and that was really cool to see.
And I remember in 2020 when I was on TSM as well, I thought him and Stixxay in the bot lane were kind of insane. I think that they were kind of the best bot lane, and he wasn't even in the finals then. TSM obviously ended up winning that one, but even since 2020, I think, when did he role swap? Was it 2019?
It was beginning of 2020.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think it was the 2021 actually that he swapped to it, because then they had Keith McBrief support, and then they swapped huhi in. Yeah, just a little history.
But he was really good ever since he swapped to support, and I think he's just kind of went on an upward trajectory from then. And then, obviously, if you have a really consistent and solid bot lane, it makes it pretty easy for your team to play. So it makes everyone in GG shine as well.
Very true. And like, it's funny because looking at that list of accolades, the one that stood out to me was just the finals appearances for huhi. From like the back to back to back to back. This would be his 5th consecutive finals appearance if he can make it. And just look at the list of people he would follow that.
It's also really cool because he would be the only support to do it. There's a lot of people at 4 that he is tied with. But again, it's only elimination on the support list. And so if he gets this one, it ties the Smithy double-lift runs. Most of these are runs from the TSM days when they made 6 straight finals.
Yeah.
Or 8. They made 8 straight, actually. It was pretty crazy. So, like, no, it was 10 straight. Then they swapped Reggie for Bjergsen. And then, anyways, point is, no one's had a run like this in a long, long time.
And it kind of talks about, it speaks to what he brings to a team. That's always something people have talked about. They'll either, at certain splits, talk about, mechanically, he's not working well, but they're still winning anyways. You'll hear from teammates saying what he brings to comms or just generally team fighting or even just like reviews, like a lot of the things that he brings to a team culture. What are your thoughts on him?
I think in general, it's kind of like the barrel story where maybe he's not the most insane mechanically. I think huhi is pretty good mechanically, to be honest, but I think he just brings a lot outside of the game. He must have a lot of impact on shot calling and kind of the team direction, and he has a lot of crazy counter picks. Sometimes they don't work out as well, but he definitely wants to look for a lot of angles, and I think he's just, especially when I play against him, I also feel he plays with a lot of pressure. He's also someone who's not happy just kind of farming and going even in a matchup where he knows he can win. I think he's someone that wants to push those limits and kind of get a bigger lead than what his opponents might get. So I think that just makes him a very deadly support. I think even when he was playing mid lane, he was looking for a lot of advantages for his team, but now he can be even of a more bigger team player than what he could do on mid lane.
There it is. There's a lot of faith, as you can see here, except for Mark.
Except for me. And I don't have time to explain, actually. I'm casting this game, so I got to go.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I got to grab my coffee.
Can you at least promise us that you'll explain it on the other side of it when you're in the casting?
Be unbiased. Then I don't have time for that after. I have to be unbiased after, so yeah, I don't. Are you sure? Sorry, I have to go.
We can extend it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, the fans' predictions clearly say 65% in Golden Guardians advantage. Maybe we'll see an upset. We'll see as we send this one off to the games.
Bienvenidos and welcome to the final day of week 3 of our playoffs, where it will be Team Liquid taking on the Golden Guardians. You already see they are arriving, and what have they got cooking up this time, Mark?
I don't know. Mannequins on the ground. They're ignoring Golden Guardians. They're too good for it, maybe?
Dang.
All business today.
Oh, you don't want to catch that smoke. Oh, Pyosik looking to threaten Golden Guardians here, but ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We've got one more series before we head over to Newark, New Jersey for the championship weekend. I'm Raafaa, this is Mark, but together this is MarkZ, you know, because Mark squared. And I've always loved this duo because I feel like we have a lot of fun, we have a lot of memes on the cast, but for today, there's a lot of stakes on the line here.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty big day for both these teams. Obviously, both of them have their season extended already, just making it here, but there's a difference between, you know, it's over, or I'm going to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Next week, I got to get the flight. I got to get over there, get ready for a big, big championship weekend.
That's right. And most of the teams will be flying over in the next couple of days as well. Cloud9 and Energy already booking their tickets over there. But this team, whoever wins, will be taking on Energy in the lower finals. So as we get ready before both of these teams enter on the stage for game 1, a couple things that I'm looking at. I mean, the top lane matchup, Licorice and Summit, our 2 top all-pros, are going to be one of the highlighted matchups as we get ready, because I hear the 2 teams are ready to make and take their stage as we get ready for the first game between these 2 teams. Ladies and gentlemen, meet your 2 teams, Golden Guardians and Team Liquid. In the top lane, Licorice taking on Summit. In the jungle, River versus Pyosik. At mid lane, Gori versus APA. At AD carry, Yeon versus Stixxay. And at support, huhi versus CoreJJ. With a trip to Newark and a guaranteed spot at Worlds on the line, will Golden Guardians make another lower bracket run, or will it be Team Liquid continuing their summer surge? Let's get this show on the road.
Low bracket sometimes is really good. You can create the trust in team. And I really hope we will get stronger and stronger every round. And then by the time we get to the New Jersey, we'll be really strong.
As a pro, I think the main reason I compete is to go to these huge stages and compete in front of thousands of people. So if I didn't make it, it would just be depressing. It would kind of feel like I wasted my summer. So yeah, we're going to do our best and try to make it there so I can play in front of a huge crowd.
Get a couple words from both of those guys as Game 1 draft will be starting just in a moment. Mark, what are some things that you were looking for in this Game 1?
Well, I think I was talking a little bit on the desk about it. The top lane matchup for me, given that both of them had just picked up Player of the Series this weekend and having a lot of momentum, the fact that top lane does feel pretty influential right now in drafts. If you are slamming the jacks, are you playing tanks into trying to support your bot and mid? Are you trying to get weird counter picks? There's a lot of things they could do. Both these guys love just slamming the blind jacks and kind of skill checking and saying, what are you going to play into me? Same thing with the Rumble. Both of them had great Rumbles in the regular season. And so it does feel like to me, Licorice and Summit, something has to give in the top lane. It's possible that they trade back and forth, but more often than not, one guy gets the upper edge, and then there start being a mental battle going on there. So that's the matchup I'm most interested in to see. But obviously, the narrative is a lot about the support position and what was all on the line down there.
Yeah, and with so many picks that are flexed between both jungle and support, it leaves a lot of room for just things that can be in the cards folded behind both of these teams' visions. Now, Golden Guardians, I know a lot of them have been looking towards River to make a lot of plays, unpredictable plays, but if we have taken anything from this summer split, it is how ferocious Pyosik can be in the early stages of the game.
Yeah, I think that's matches up very well for both these players. I think River is
people call him a psychopath jungler, but they're usually actually pretty smart paths around a game plan and advancing that. It's not just like see hero, kill hero. I think Pyosik is actually the one who can get a little bit more coin flippy in like a skirmish, but both of them are very, very aggressive, very proactive. Yeah, so am I seeing... Oh, it's the last ban, excuse me. Okay, there we go. I was like, what the hell? So Triss Jace is gone. I like seeing that for APA taking off the board. That's a mirror matchup that people can play both sides of, but neither one usually seems to go his way against the better competition that we've seen so far. He struggled against Palafox that way, and so I do like taking that off and opting into more of his own champions.
Yeah, a lot of criticism being thrown APA's way about whether he is able to actually pilot those champions.
Oh my god, I love this.
And they sniped the Neeko away because they know it's another comfort pick from APA.
I was about to say 5 mid lane bans in the first phase is crazy. You usually don't see this. There's a lot of like Kai'Sa bans, and you're getting rid of like Sejuani or Rel or Rakan, all these other things. Here they're just saying no, mid lane's the focus, and then Golden Guardians also grabs away APA's signature champion. In terms of things that we've seen him play a lot of, all that's really left up is the Cassio now.
Yeah. And Team Liquid, I don't know if we have ever seen APA pilot the Kai'Sa before. More than likely, Yeon should be picking this up, but we know from other teams' experiences that this is a flex pick. If they send it to APA, it would be his first LCS game on this champion. But as you called it out before, Cassiopeia is the only other champion that we've seen from APA on stage. The other one was Victor, but that was the time when Golden Guardians really gave him the, the welcome.
They gave him the business.
That's
and
right.
I don't think he wants that again, especially, Neeko does have decent setup early on with like the E hits, and you can get early shove with Q, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something else come in for the mid lane here. The Kai'Sa, I'm not sure how that plays into Neeko, but I assume it's going to be pretty Neeko favorite early on, and so we'll see what we can do, because that was one of the things when we showed that box of their champions. It was much bigger for Gori. He does have that extra level of flexibility, and it looks like they're going to potentially pair it up with an Ivern to get really, really annoying. Ooh.
They were toying with our hearts there. Rengar River would have been really spicy to see, but the Nocturne gives you a lot of utility once you get to level 6. Paranoia pretty much forces fights on your terms, and of course the Cassante pickup for Licorice. So the entire top side of the map has been locked in, meaning that there's plenty of options still for the bottom side of the map when it comes to Golden Guardians.
Yeah, and there's some pressure now for APA to pick before potentially more bans come through. Maybe they'll throw the Cassio ban, and there you go. They actually answer with the Ahri right away, knowing that they did not want his champ pool pinched any closer. Ahri has fallen off, not quite as powerful as it was, but it's still a very strong generalist pick where you have decent wave clear, you have decent mobility and ways to survive ganks if they come your way, and this feels like a mitigation tactic around the mid lane, making sure you have those dashes when the Nocturne 6 comes in, that you don't get chain CC'd against the Neeko.
And having someone like an Ahri to look for those picks, I mean, so far, anytime you see a composition with Viego, we've had some criticism about Viego compositions in the past, but the win condition still remains the same. It's all about those resets. It's all about getting a single target, bursted down, and then letting Viego take over the fight.
I've heard some mixed opinions on Viego in the current meta. I personally don't mind it. I know Treats, when was talking, we were watching some LCK, he was like, I hate Viego or something. But yeah, I do think it can make some sense when you have a lot of Giga Chad Summit on your team. Find a lot of people, get them low, and then you just have to go focus on the cleanup. And like you said, combos well with Ahri if you can land a charm, chunk people down, and they get pretty scrappy in the 2v2.
So take a look at the second round of bans. Aphelios and Zeri taken off the table away from Stixxay. Xayah also gone as the Tristana from the first round of bans. This means that without Kai'Sa, I mean, what options do you have left? Do you want to go for something like a Jinx, even without protection?
I mean, there's Ezreal. There's a lot of potential options that they can go to here. I am surprised to see double support ban focus for Golden Guardians and not any tops. They're kind of saying we don't care what Summit plays, even though we've already taken the Cassante. Normally you would protect the mismatch because AD carry had not been selected for Golden Guardians. That's where Team Liquid bans, and Golden Guardians did not follow that strategy. They just want to limit CoreJJ's playmaking opportunities. He is someone that we've talked about being so good about leading a team, being able to find the moment to go in, and they're saying, okay, let's get rid of the 2 best engagers left in the support position.
Oh ho ho!
This is why I was worried about not protecting the Cassante pick. We know Summit loves to slam carries. He had a plethora of them, and maybe that's why they said it's not even worth trying, because you ban out 2, and then it's like, okay, here's the Gwen, or here's the Fiora, or who knows what else. So they actually choose this other option, but this is a big skill check, why we're highlighting it, because if Summit can take over, it drastically changes how Golden Guardians has to approach this series with blind tanks.
And the question becomes, how well can Team Liquid empower and snowball Summit to that win condition? Because there have been times in games where Summit on the Fiora can single-handedly win games through the split push, and there have been times where we see Summit TPing into the middle of, of a 4-man fight. It's like, hey, This is not the win condition, but Team Liquid, everything is on the line here as Golden Guardians wrapping up their last couple of picks. The Ezreal, as you called it out, that leaves huhi having to blind this support champion. It looks like it just could be that. Not the Nautilus, the Leona for that extra power engage with Solar Flare.
So most people do prefer Leona into Nautilus, and given that those are two of the primary engagers left up, if they pick the Nautilus, it would get counterpicked with the Leona, so they're just taking the Leona side of the matchup, anticipating a Leona pick. But CoreJJ does have that extra level of flexibility, and I was about to say, my problem with the Team Liquid comp thus far is there's no good front line. There's very squishy members because you went the Viego more skirmishy focused jungler as opposed to tankier. Oh, he goes to the Alistar instead. I was about to say, I love the Terra for giving them invulnerability in team fights, but this is realistically not a team fighting team. It's a lot more about pick-off potential, and Alistar is there to maybe start these fights now with that combo. Much easier to start a fight with an Alistar than with a Terra.
Yeah. Walking up and trying to dazzle stun someone is not as reliable as being able to get in there with the pulverized headbutt combo. So Team Liquid being able to summarize both sides and what their win cons here, Mark. As you already mentioned it, a lot of skirmishing power on Team Liquid's side, but when it comes to straight up team fighting, Golden Guardian seems to have the edge.
I really like Golden Guardian's draft. If I'm being honest, I like the burst potential that they have in terms of assassinating. If you can land a Leona ult on top of Nocturne and Neeko finds backline access, you can very easily blow somebody up, and Ezreal's pretty self-sufficient on his own, so if all 4 of the other members go in, you're totally fine. For Team Liquid, they do have this like 4-1 potential with the Fiora, but Nocturne's really annoying to try and split push into sometimes because he can collapse from so far away when you start making a dive happen like that. So I do feel like Golden Guardians has a lot of really good tools here, and it's a high barrier of execution for Team Liquid in Game 1.
All right. Coaches will exchange their fist bumps. The teams are locked and loaded. The drafts have been set. And Game 1 of this last series in the Riot Games arena before we head over to Newark, New Jersey for the championship weekend is about to take fold. Both of these teams have come a long way. Golden Guardians once again trying to make that lower bracket run, but Team Liquid, the surprise summer surge after a spring split that left many fans disappointed. This is their chance to redeem themselves as we take to the Rift for Game 1.
Last spot to New Jersey on the line here. Winner goes, loser sits at home and starts getting ready for that 4th place qualifier match versus Europe.
And it starts with a 5-man fan.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
And because we have a 5-man fan, we're going to actually toss it over to Gabby, who is on standby with TL coach Rainover.
Thank you so much, Raafaa. Underdog run in full effect. How's the team feeling going into the 4th best of 5 compared to the 1st?
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing a lot of games since we fall into the losers bracket, so I think everyone is a little bit exhausted, but the motivation is just too high that everyone is fine, yeah.
Yeah, keeping that energy going. I know a lot of us are looking forward to the top lane matchup. Licorice and Summit, both being players of their previous series. What do you think we can expect there?
Top lane matchup, they didn't really touch any top laners, so we had like so many options, but we just picked the most aggressive option because it's the first game, and the first game, you know, I want to make sure we have some like flow going on, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for that early scrap in game number 1. Thanks for joining me. Back to the game.
I love hearing that from Rainover. It's exactly what we're talking about. We're in a best of 5 series. You have this kind of wiggle room to go for aggressive picks, and if they don't work, you can scale it back from there. So I like hearing them saying we had dealer's choice. We went with the most aggressive, most split push focused, most solo kill oriented champion we can possibly pick in Fiora.
Yeah, test your limits in Game 1. If it doesn't work out, then adjust as you need be. The other thing I also like is Gabby mentioning to Rainover, this is now your 4th best of 5. For players like Summit, Pyosik, and CoreJJ, maybe that doesn't matter as much because they have plenty of experience, but it matters a ton for APA and Yeon, who this is their first playoffs experience ever on the LCS stage.
It's super cool for these guys to already know that they'll be representing North America in some international competition, but obviously they want to go to their first in-venue finals event, be able to feel the roar of an arena, the way the stage almost vibrates. You always hear players talk about that for their first time, being like, whoa, that was crazy, being able to feel the crowd literally through my peripherals, in my hands, under my seat.
It hits different, man. APA already getting the first early shove onto Gori in the Neeko matchup. If there is anyone that will know the Neeko matchup better, it would be APA. Is already heavy trading going on.
And he does have some Ahri games, despite the fact that we haven't seen the LCS. He played it 5 times in the Academy, or excuse me, the Tier 2 League. Challengers now. Yeah, he was 3-2 on it, so it's not like it's a foreign champion. Every mid laner has played a ton of Ahri at this point in their careers, so like you said, he does have the experience of playing the other side of the matchup quite a bit as well.
Looks like Pyosik is looking for an early roam onto the bottom side of the map. He cleared all top camps and booking it towards the bottom side where Stixxay and huhi are overextended. Pyosik is now spotted on the minion wave here. Stixxay has an arcane shift to play with, and huhi just flashing forward, trying to interrupt Pyosik on the gank. But now huhi should just be left to the wolves here of Team Liquid, and that's first blood for Pyosik.
Absolutely, so well played by Team Liquid there. The slow move in, knowing that Leona was too far forward. I liked huhi's idea of if I can land the Zenith Blade and use that as an escape mechanism, but it was really smart by Pyosik there to not actually start attacking Stixxay. He just kind of ran past him, and he was not where huhi was anticipating. They could get right on top of him. Easy kill there, and doesn't really cost him any sums other than the exhaust, and that's huhi flashless now. So they have to be really careful from here on if they push up with this Leona Ezreal to make sure that they have a really good vision to make sure there's no other ganks coming down there, and the snowball starts, because we've seen what happens when Kai'Sa gets ahead of Ezreal. It's a very risky counter pick into the Kai'Sa where you can win lane phase, but if you fall behind, she just starts assassinating you in the mid game.
Now, because Team Liquid did show a little bit of their cards in the early game, River was able to get his full clear off. Pyosik was able to get the bottom crab first, though, so River has a chance to look for that top crab if he wants to path around it. But right now, he seems to be linking up with huhi as he's going to clear his second rotation of Raptors.
Yep. This is one of the things River can do. We always talk about the mix-up that he does where he goes full clear focused. And I think it's probably a little frustrating for him that the bot lane has gone this poorly and the wave is actually pushing away from him. He's clearing up to top side and kind of saying, like, that's your mess. You deal with it. You know, there's potential repeat gank coming through, but he does not want to be deterred from his power farming focus, instead working his way up to this top scuttle crab.
The nice thing about River on this champion, though, is that your goal as Nocturne is try to hit level 6 as fast as possible, because the utility that you unlock with the Paranoia, even though we talk about how strong of an engage tool it is early in the mid game, the other nice thing is how you can combo it with the other ultimates that Golden Guardians has at their disposal.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways for them to make very good usage of him. Easy setup in both bot and mid lane. Even top side, technically, if you have like Q3 K'Sante ready to go, you can actually hop on top of the Fiora. So he has kind of any lane he wants to go to, he can make a play in. You just want to make sure that you are not picking a bad fight with Pyosik around. So it's going to be very important for them to keep vision down of all the deep wards on Nocturne. It's one of the best ways to counter a Nocturne who can kind of come flying in. His level 1 ult range is not quite as crazy as it used to be, but yeah, generally speaking, deep wards get more value on champions who have these really creative gank paths.
A little bit of a trade from huhi as he engages onto Yeon, but takes about half his HP. huhi just trying to sacrifice his HP so that they can get this crash into the wave.
I really like that kind of delayed combo that CoreJJ went for there, and waiting out the W from Leona when you have the bonus resist, trying to wait as long as possible before getting kind of those plasma stacks activated on them. As we see Summit in trouble.
Oh, Summit has popped level 6 here, but Licorice going for the flash means that Summit has the flash in response.
Nice abuse Licorice had there by getting the early level 6 and instantly trying to punish Summit. Heads up W. That riposte saved Summit's life for sure. The fact that he did not get the K'Sante on top of his head, but it did mean that he had to burn his flash. K'Sante flash fall, and because Summit hit 6, he got the move speed off, dropping that ultimate there and was able to survive. But nice out of Licorice saying, hey, you made a counter pick me, but that doesn't mean you're going to have an easy lane phase.
I mean, that's why Golden Guardians, wanting to give the trust in Licorice, saying, hey, it doesn't matter who they put into you, your K'Sante is going to smurf on the top side of the map. River is here on the bottom side of the map, making sure that Yeon and CoreJJ don't look for any kind of shenanigans. It seems that Stixxay was on a reset, and this just could be time for Team Liquid to look for this dragon, but they have a control ward in the pit. This could get dicey.
Yeah, Licorice does have TP advantage, so we'll see if he wants to end up having to burn that and end up in a very awkward state. Instead, I kind of like this idea. You know, you do have TP advantage, but like you said, you're already on the back foot in the bot side of the map. Just sack that and don't int Licorice's lane, because if he goes down there and picks that fight, Summit's not coming. He's going and taking turret plates top, and then you start having more problems in the 1v1 later on in the game. So, yes, it is a dragon. Yes, it's an Infernal Dragon. That feels pretty good for Team Liquid, but I do like that macro decision out of Golden Guardians to just let it go.
Yeah. Understanding when to give and when to take resources on the map is just as crucial for Golden Guardians to make sure that they are not sacking leads unnecessarily just for the sake of trying to contest something that, cannot come awry. Now, Rift Herald's going to be spawning in the next 50 minutes. I imagine that is going to be the next objective at play. And at that time, almost everyone on both teams should have level 6 available.
Yeah, I think you can expect a fight. Both these teams super aggressive. We saw over a kill a minute in some of the NRG series, and then while it was a slow start to the first game versus Dignitas, Golden Guardians very quickly ramped up the pace and showed how dominant they can be when they're feeling themselves. So we'll see if they can do anything about it, but it is tough. Here we go.
Oh, Paranoia right on top of Summit, and he has no flash, so River can guarantee the flash, and the Fear right on top of Summit as well. No riposte available as he already used it on Licorice, but he's running away, and he's got the movement speed, and he's able to dance his way out of this one.
Love to see that out of Summit, getting the flash out of River. At first, I thought it was a very heads-up play. Flash to the other side of the Fiora, so the Fear chases her back into the Kai'Sa, but I don't know if Licorice just didn't have ult up yet or didn't have a good angle to ult him because you would have pushed him further up the lane, but either way, just with that Q movement speed, able to get out with the ult combined and absorbs that first Nocturne ult with no cost to himself.
Yeah, and it's great because now Team Liquid with the ultimate advantage, it just means that Golden Guardians have no shot at being able to contest them at the Rift Herald. So both of the neutral objectives are going to go the way of Team Liquid. How can they continue snowballing this lead further?
Well, I think you're definitely going to see this Rift Herald go up topside to that Fiora. Like you said, you have this aggressive pick. I mean, you can go and drop it as early as you want. It really does not matter as much about breaking the Ahri out or the Kai'Sa. I think if the Fiora gets super far ahead, you start getting 2v1 potential when that Nocturne starts jumping on you.
A little bit of training on the bot side once again. Yeon and CoreJJ still getting aggressive. Solar Flare comes out right dead onto Yeon. He forced the cleanse, but he still has a flash in case things get dicier later on.
I think that's a pretty heads-up cleanse there out of Yeon. There was not actually any 100-0 threat from there because you could see that huhi was not going in, and you had CoreJJ camping on top of his head. But it would have been a big chunk of damage. And given that both neutral objectives are down, there's probably not going to be a necessary use of this cleanse in a team fight coming up. So use it to avoid getting chunked out, be able to stay in lane phase, and continue pressuring up.
It's also nice having that HP advantage in lane, so you aren't forced to reset earlier than you would want, as Pyosik does find himself on the top side of the map, just making sure that he's getting a hover in for Summit and guarantees this wave will crash, as actually the wave is pushing away from him, so this puts Licorice in a very unfortunate spot.
Wow, interesting choice here. Okay, I thought for sure Team Liquid was going to crash that wave, just funnel some gold there, but because it's pushing away, you actually see Pyosik do the recall. Licorice sticks around now, knowing that it's pushing away, kind of waited until the fact that he didn't see the crash come through, that then he cancels. Very heads up mind game level, like, oh, he's going to crash the wave. Oh, they're not crashing the wave. Now I'm going to actually stick around and push it out and actually get that one in. So that was a really good recall cancel out of Licorice there to make sure he is not screwed in the top side of the map.
Dodges himself out of a bad situation. So far, the CS lead has still been in Summit's favor, but for the most part, this game is still pretty much even. Neutral objectives have gone the way of Team Liquid, but Golden Guardians still don't feel like that they are completely out of the game. I would imagine that the next cast of Paranoia does have to start making things work for Golden Guardians before Team Liquid start running them over.
Yeah, you can expect to see it. I mean, they might go for it right here, but they are on a ward. huhi is spotted, but no river vision yet.
But he's staying outside of that vision radius at the moment. Communicating well. It's like, hey, if there's a ward here in Paranoia, as huhi flashes right on top of Yeon, but he flashes the Solar Flare critically, and nice headbutt from CoreJJ! Outplaying River!
Team Liquid is just taking advantage of all of Golden Guardians' aggressive plays there. Yeon critically was able to flash out. There was no cleanse. They knew that they wanted to chain CC him with the Leona ultimate, but it was a little too slow by huhi, and then River's a heat-seeking missile. So the fact that Ezreal gets to, or the Kai'Sa gets to flash out means I am so much further in than I thought I would be. That gives the angle for the headbutt out of CoreJJ, and they punish that play from Golden Guardians.
And they know that from the previous engage on the top side of the map, River had no flash to be able to get out of that one, so guaranteed counterplay from the side of Team Liquid. And this is honestly a different look from Team Liquid. We know that Pyosik and the rest of these guys are very known for making things aggressive and going all out in the early stages of the game. Other than the bot side gank, they've been pretty calm and letting Golden Guardians do the work for them.
Yeah, I think it was Treat saying that, you know, Team Liquid is actually very good about being reactive as well and just kind of seeing where the plays are coming and outplaying them, and that's exactly what happened in both those lanes so far. And right now, I think what's also worth noting is we haven't talked about mid lane. We were talking about, oh, Gori versus APA, is he going to be able to handle it or not? Yeah, he's down CS, but the fact that nothing's gone wrong in mid lane is actually great for them, and the Ahri is going to be providing plenty of utility once she finishes the Everfrost and the Charm, and your job there is to kind of set people up for the rest of the team.
And they're sending the Rift Herald in the mid lane. I know you were talking about maybe they would do it for top lane so that someone could get as most plates as possible, but this gives some plates over to APA, allows him to catch back up since there is a slight CS lead for Gori.
Yeah, I don't hate it because against Nocturne, it's very valuable to break mid lane turret. Against any global, it's very valuable to be able to push further in from mid lane because that's where a lot of plays spill over from, and getting deeper wards becomes easier and all that stuff I was talking about. At the same time, you have a Fiora on the top side. I would really like to snowball her. Yeah. So I understand the decision. It also gave them prio to go grab that dragon right there, so they did combo it very well. Absolutely still a very good play out of Team Liquid.
2 dragons to their name, and it looks like we have... Which dragon is this? Oh, it's the stinky one. Chemical...
Gas dragon.
Gas dragon.
Smog dragon.
Smog dragon. Ooh, the riposte. Licorice forced to flash, but now River comes in with the paranoia, and Summit still has a flash that he can work with, but with the fear and the flash from River as he follows Summit up on the play. He cannot escape this time, and River gets his mark.
Thankfully for Golden Guardians, they finally have a play going their way. River on the top side finds that, but it took a lot of work. Again, multiple flashes being burned. Did get the flash out of Summit this time around. He was so close to getting out, but because River had tagged him with the Q, he had that bonus move speed the whole way to chase him down. You saw how dicey it was there. Had to flash from getting that Vital proc, because otherwise, you probably see a turret dive there in a 1-for-1. So then Summit decides to try and run away from River, but you can see the move speed allowing him to catch up despite the fact that Vital was procced. River finds his first kill, and fortunately for him, the game kind of felt like it hinged on that play. If that was the second failed Nocturne ult and Team Liquid continued to snowball, that would be very, very scary. But now they've got that kill. A little bit of gold in the pockets of River, as he will be one of the critical figures for diving and getting DPS onto the backline of Team Liquid.
Nice surge of life here for the Golden Guardians, as you called it. If that was the second cast of the Paranoia and still nothing really gained from it, then it would have surely seemed like Team Liquid would have started running away with momentum in the first 15 minutes of this game. Seems like the bot lane of Team Liquid have shifted their attention from the bot lane into the mid lane now that the turret plates have fallen, so that they can have guaranteed mid prio as they start looking to push their advantage into the jungle.
Yeah, interesting lane setup here. Is nice dodge out there by AVA, but you can see how sticky Licorice is already with the mobility, the slows coming in from the Iceborne Gauntlets. This is a setup now for the Rift Herald that's spawning very shortly. APA's teleport is on a lower cooldown, and so I think that they are happy to send him down to the bot side and just try and interrupt any Licorice TPs with a charm or something and try and keep it 4v4 while they go and force down this Rift Herald.
And while Team Liquid not necessarily all that thrilled about Summit going down, it does mean that Paranoia is not available for this Rift Herald take, so once again, no contest coming in from Golden Guardians. That means both objectives in Dragons and Rift Heralds have been secured by Team Liquid. They have been absolutely clinical with these objectives.
They've been super clean so far. 4 out of 4 early game neutral objectives going their way, but it doesn't feel like they've quite broken the back of Golden Guardians quite yet. It is getting very, very dicey. This mid lane turret's about to drop now, instantly using this one. I'm going to be trying to keep the pressure up. Team Liquid loves to snowball games as aggressively as possible, as we see number 3 from River, potentially.
Hovering, but looking for the recall and reset. Doesn't look like Summit is going to be biting as the Rift Herald mech gets its second charge. Nice damage on the tier 2 turret in the mid lane.
And Summit playing with respect. Something you don't always see out of him. Notoriously high isolated deaths. One of the easiest top laners to pick on when he starts feeling himself, he starts getting aggressive. But with that shove mid, I think you could see Golden Guardians anticipating, this is what Summit does. He pushes when he shouldn't. But actually, heads up play by Summit there, letting the wave crash into him and wasting a lot of River's time.
This is character development all the way back in spring as well. You know, Summit just kind of head empty, no thoughts, always pushing the lane. But this time around, Summit just being constantly aware. It's like, hey, River's already made 2 trips towards the top side. What's to say he's not going to go for me a third time, you know?
Yeah, he's learning. And I think that's the story of Team Liquid this year, was they were brought in with the 2 rookies, with a handful of veteran Korean pro players, and there was this, we're going to work harder than everyone else. That was kind of their messaging at the start of the year, and they've definitely kind of lived up to that. I think a lot of people identified them as a summer split team. A little bit more disappointing in spring than at least I was anticipating, with, I believe it was an 8th place finish at the time.
Yeah.
And that was just even where I thought they would make playoffs. Maybe they're not going to go on a crazy run, but that was a surprise. And I think summer split started a little bit better. There was a struggle in the middle of the season. That's what brought APA in, which seems to have allowed this team to hit that next level, a little bit more stability in his playmaking. And now they are on pace to at least represent international competition and maybe make a finals weekend, which is what, you know, this team kind of wanted when they built this roster way back at the start of the year. They said, we're a summer split roster, and they're proving it.
And one of the things, too, as we're getting ready for Dragon in the next 30 seconds, Team Liquid, the narrative around them and they wanted to push in the spring split is we're going to outwork everyone. We're going to work harder, and we're going to put in more hours than anyone else. The fact that it resulted in 8th place finish, they kind of changed up, you know, okay, actually now we're the cool team, we're the fun team, but
we have intros now.
Yeah, but I still want it to be known that some of these guys, especially APA and Yeon, even though that they're rookies, they put in more hours than anyone else on the team, and it's clearly shown because they want to make sure that they are not being outmatched by the rest of the peers in the LCS.
We'll see if they are able to cleanly snowball this game out. It's one of the things that they have struggled with as a team, including some of their rookies, not always being super consistent with their gold leads. Here you can see Golden Guardians wanting to contest this dragon, stop the dragon stacking out of Team Liquid.
Licorice has TP as well. Paranoia is popped. It's all darkness for Team Liquid as the Pop Blossom follows as well onto 2. True Shot Barrage coming in, doing damage onto Pyosik as he's forced the flash. Huhi falling up as well. Licorice leading the charge against CoreJJ. APA is separated and Yeon is still kiting as much as he can. He gets the flash out. Huhi's the first one to fall, but Pyosik looks for a reset and now he's Cassante, but they're still running away. Summon has teleported looking for the flank as well, and Golden Guardians have pushed out 1, but it still doesn't feel like a 1 fight yet.
It's a 1-for-1. Golden Guardians being a little bit healthier though, and looks like they can fall back safely onto this dragon to snag this one. APA in trouble.
He has flash, but he doesn't have Spirit Rushing. He gets popped. A little too greedy and overeager on trying to check to see where the dragon was, and Golden Guardians will now secure the objective.
Golden Guardians finally find their fight there, and a little bit of greed out of APA, trying to poke his nose back in around the dragon. Huhi camping the brush, the wily veteran finds him, and I gotta say, this engage was not super clean. Honestly, they do get this initial start to, which is quite nice with a 3-man knockup by Gori, the Ezreal over the top, but then they don't finish anyone down. The surprising thing to me is how little damage Team Liquid's doing in response. Like, everyone's still at 80% at this point after Golden Guardians has used most of their cooldowns. So it's a 4v5. Yes, Summit was a little late with the TP because the Nocturne ult allows you to block TPs from coming in, but it's a concern now that where's Team Liquid's damage going to come from until Kai'Sa gets 3 items. The Ahri only on Everfrost, not able to bring too much, and it looked pretty free for Golden Guardians to just kind of faceplant into Team Liquid, even if the engage isn't the best.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything.
I mean, the tricky thing is that whenever Paranoia is activated, you just don't know where everyone is coming from. And especially already on a team that, you know, comms-wise isn't always the cleanest, Team Liquid now have to even go above and beyond the barrier of like, hey, I don't see what's happening. Please tell me what's going on. Where do we back? Do we you know, kite this one out? Do we make the counter engage? What do we do, guys?
I mean, even in that example though, they were grouped up, all on top of each other. The Paranoia turns lights out, whatever. You see them all jumping in you. You just hit closest target at that point, and they didn't have any damage coming through. And this is even with the what I like the Triforce build on the Viego these days after repeated Divine Sunderer nerfs. It's a much higher win rate. So, you know, he is somewhat high damage. He's not quite Kraken Slayer like full damage Viego, but the fact that they couldn't punch through the Leona, couldn't punch through River, Licorice went up next, they didn't have the damage to actually kill anyone there until the very tail end of the fight. It's a little concerning later on.
Oh, but nice charm from APA. It stops the Pop Blossom. And I believe River saw that interaction, knowing that the Paranoia would have been for naught. Well done by APA stopping what could have been an engage.
It's a little, seeing that run at you, you're like, this is not right. So very easy to land that charm there. Gets Gori to not land the ultimate, but not too high investment of a play there. Single ultimate on Neeko has a pretty short cooldown, will be up shortly, and there's no neutral objectives up. I like Golden Guardians continuing to fish for plays. And the flip side is, Team Liquid doesn't have any plays that they're going for. It's kind of just like Summon in the side lane split push, but he hasn't been super accelerated ahead of the Cassante to the point where you can dominate him.
Yeah.
You know, he still actually did die in one of those ganks. He never got his own kills. They didn't drop the Rift Herald for him, which I think is starting to rear its head as why it's a potential problem that the Fiora has not been accelerated quite yet. She does continue to scale. She will get her second item. Once you have the Ravenous Hydra done, you get much more annoying. You continue to get more and more annoying as the game goes on, but you're 3,000 gold up, and they are in a fine position, but I am concerned as the 5v5s continue to break out.
It's definitely slowed down the game, or at least the pace of the game that Team Liquid were looking for through its side lanes, but they invested their gold into getting APA a little bit of ahead and giving Yeon and CoreJJ mid-prio, as they always can at least bleed into side lanes that are pushed off right here.
And this is exactly what the mid option of the Rift Herald gives you. It's an easier path through the enemy jungle, so when APA gets his shove and Gori doesn't have his ultimate, they're able to collapse up there, grab the third turret of the game for themselves. At some point, they actually grabbed that mid inner one, which the Rift Herald charge. I don't know if that came off the back of the replay during the Dragon situation, but either way, a nice little bit of gold chunk for Team Liquid. 4,000 gold up. We talked about Yeon potentially being the main damage carry this game. He is fortunately online. He is coming up on 9,000 gold, 1,000 ahead of Stixxay basically, and also the richest member in the game. Despite not getting any kills, 3 assists, a lot of farm, and some turret plates funneled his way, means that he is well on his way to grabbing that third item, where a lot of people say that's when Kai'Sa becomes pretty obnoxious.
And the test here for Yeon, I want to harken back to what we had from Stixxay and some of his words before this match. It's like, hey, I'm one of the guys that does the most with less resources, and sometimes I feel like Yeon gets resources and doesn't make the most of it. So now, this is
the put up or shut up game.
That's right.
He's the most invested member on the side of Team Liquid. He is going the Rage Blade build, which I think is the right choice with how short range Golden Guardians are and how much hard engage they have. They're going to be jumping on your head. You need to survive that and then blow them up afterwards. You are not just poking with W here. So I do like the build that he's going for. We'll have to see if he's able to pull that one off.
River and CoreJJ staring menacingly at each other, but not really pulling the trigger on either or, because neither team is really set up for a real engage there. Summit is getting a decent chunk onto Licorice, and Pyosik is starting to shadow him on the bottom side of the map, just in case River started to fade towards bot side as Summit gets this push in. Baron is alive for the taking, but it doesn't seem like Golden Guardians are really ready to take it either.
No, I think Baron will be one of these objectives that maybe you bait, see if you have enough prio to force Team Liquid down there, but Pyosik's top side of the map. This brings a dive.
They go for the stun, and it looks like they just have the damage to easily take him down. He was already below half HP, and this turret will fall.
That was a really nice play out of Pyosik there. You saw Golden Guardians kind of messing around with the Baron vision. Being on the bot side of the map 23 minutes in as a jungler can be scary, but if you make the dive happen, well, then someone has TP and he can collapse, and it's actually still a 4v4 on the Baron side of the map. So finally they get a kill onto Licorice. Finally they accelerate this Fiora, grabbing that turret, grabbing a kill.
Oh, nice chunk from APA. Gori is now below 50% HP. Huhi is lurking around here with River, and this turret is about to fall. True Shot Barrage is going to reveal that multiple members on Dragon, so they know that this dive is for River, but this teleport from Summit is going to protect APA. Now CoreJJ is coming around the wings. It's going to bunt Huhi over the wall. Summit might have bought him a little bit more than he could chew. Gori over the wall. Pop Blossom flash onto 3, and now Summit falls. CoreJJ forced a flash, and that's the TP coming in from Licorice. And can Golden Guardians look for more momentum off of this play?
They're pretty low. They're backing with Gori. He has TP to rejoin the fight. They might force onto this Baron now that they have Summit down.
Another TP from Gori, and it looks like Golden Guardians going to pull the trigger. Baron has begun. Team Liquid, can they get into the pit? Flash is available for Pyosik. They have vision on the pit. They stun up huhi. He flashes right on top of Yeon. He still has flash and cleanse. Using the cleanse for the killer instinct and distance himself away. River doesn't have paranoia, but he looks in for the fear. Force the flash over the wall. Stixxay trying to fire off the True Shot Barrage. Yeon is able to dodge it. Pyosik looking for the reset, and now he is the Nocturne. Can he kite over to APA to save him out of this one? All out from Licorice takes out APA. Meanwhile, Yeon, can he contribute to the fight? But he has no flash and he has no subs. And the rest of Team Liquid, it's all on Pyosik to look for these resets, but he's not going to have enough damage to turn it around. Stixxay flashing forward, guarantees the kill! Triple for him, and Golden Guardians clean up the fight.
It's a delayed ace for Golden Guardians, but they find all 5 members. Summit is alive. River is dead, so there's no smite. I don't think Golden Guardians are going Baron.
Summit repause. Can he look for Stixxay and Licorice? But it's a 1-on-3. I don't know what you're thinking about that one. That's an easy ace for Golden Guardians again.
What was Summit doing? They had a ward in the brush. They knew that he was standing in the bush right there. Just ends up dropping as Golden Guardians were baiting him into thinking, okay, they're on Baron, I have to go contest this 1v3, this is a hero moment, but they are able to pick him off there in the river. And here's this play. I gotta say, Yeon did play this one very well, kiting out, like you said, the cleanse ultimate to get away from the Leona, trying to buy enough space, waiting till the last possible second to flash the wall, get the extra distance so the fear doesn't go off. But again, he's the only damage. There's not enough threat from APA, and so even though Pyosik gets a kill on Nocturne, nice cleanup there, they're not able to find anyone else for Pyosik to keep resetting through the fight, because he is kind of the other guy who might be able to do that. He tries after killing Leona. I really like the idea here. If you can get the Leona soul, maybe you can start comboing, get onto, you know, Licorice next, and Yeon's able to join up, but they did a really good job camping that soul. Pyosik couldn't get it. Then it's an easy chase down afterwards, and you can see the stunned look of Reignover as that fight went Golden Guardians' way.
Such a tough line to follow. When you're in that Viego mindset, all you're thinking is, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm surrounded by multiple guys, I can continue getting resets and I can just pretty much clean this up 1v9. But the fact that Yeon was forced out of the fight and had to take the long way around, it was literally just Pyosik in all of Golden Guardian spaces.
And I think the timing of that was really good for Golden Guardians. The fact that you did not have Yeon on his third item yet, still working towards that Rage Blade. That fight can look really different if he has his Mythic completed there, but they were able to force that one before then. Gold lead still in Team Liquid's favor, but with this Baron buff, will probably swing Golden Guardians' way if they can get some of these turrets. They have no turrets on the map yet, despite the 4 that Team Liquid have. So a lot of standing gold able to go their way. They're going to try and go ahead and grab that, as well as the Dragon spawning in 2 minutes. They want to make sure they don't give up Soul, but it is Chemtech Soul. It's not the end of the world if they do lose that one.
the gold lead that had plateaued for Team Liquid now as they try to fight their way back, knowing that River is on the bottom side of the map. It's a 4v4. Someone is trying to look for the collapse with the paranoia. Takes out all of Team Liquid's vision and then now makes it so that CoreJJ is completely isolated. They can't step up and they can't follow. CoreJJ goes down for free as Golden Guardians continue to withstand the pressure.
Really nice play there by Golden Guardians. Team Liquid were trying to defend that turret, but it was still a 3v4 that they went into there. They finish off the turret, then they grab CoreJJ. River just been split pushing bot side this entire time. His only contribution to that fight was turning the lights off with the ultimate and threading a potential dive, which allowed them to find that kill. Now they're going for the base.
Pyosik steps up, zones them off. The inhibitor tower still at threat by this empowered cannon minion, but finally falls. As Summon is now looking for the split push, but Licorice is here to answer.
Yeah, Licorice strong enough now to defend the turret quite easily. Did use his ultimate there to force Summit back, but a huge influx of gold. Like we said, now even in turrets for now a 2,000 gold lead. Golden Guardians way there, feeling very, very good now.
As we mentioned before, it seemed like Team Liquid were slowly accumulating that lead, and then in just one fight, Golden Guards completely able to reverse that momentum. We have Dragon spawning in the next 30 seconds. It is soul point for Team Liquid, but with the current state that they are in, it seems extremely difficult for them to contest.
Yeah, we're talking about potential 5v5 issues the entire game. Now that they've fallen behind, that feels even harder to find an avenue in, especially with Golden Guardians getting there early right now, dropping vision down, setting up, making sure there's no easy path for Team Liquid in. Viego is a fairly slippery champion, and they do have decent pick with the Ahri potentially. Yeon critically has completed his Rage Blade.
Huge power spike coming in for the young rookie. Team Liquid trying to play through mid. Gori off to the side. Nice flash from CoreJJ looking for River. Paranoia turns out all the lights, and huhi is sacrificing himself so the rest of Golden Guardians can look for the re-engage. 4-man pop blossom from Gori. Finds the re-engage. The knock up here, but Pyosik, can he look for the resets now? He's looking for another kill, and they find the backline. Stixxay's gone. Yeon finds his moment with the killer instinct. And Team Liquid can finally find the reset that they're looking for. Soul point is theirs. River's forced to run.
They're pinging the base. They might want to end the game. Yes, they can go soul point, but they have a minion wave. Only River up in 15 seconds before huhi spawns. This is at least an inhibitor mid lane, and we'll have to see how aggressive they want to get here.
10 seconds on huhi, 30 seconds on the rest of the members of Golden Guardians. If they wanted to end this game, there is a window surely. We'll see how far Team Liquid want to take it. They're pushing for it. Nexus turrets in their sight. Nexus in their minds. Game 1 victory in their brains as they look for one more. Nexus turret 1 already fell. They're ignoring River and huhi. They're barreling up, brute forcing their way. They find the kills. Oh my God! Team Liquid find one fight and they don't miss. Game 1 is theirs.
Right when it looked like Golden Guardians had grabbed game 1 back, you see Team Liquid with a monstrous fight in the mid lane, able to find that opportunity. CoreJJ goes in first, combos with Summit to force Stixxay back, and then the peel onto huhi to find that first kill, start giving Viegos those resets, and critically Yeon with the Rage Blade completed could pump out the DPS to shred through the members of Golden Guardians.
You can see that the work is still not done. It is only game 1 of the best of 5. A long road ahead for Team Liquid, but looks of both relief and somewhat frustration, as there is definitely moments where they're like, guys, what happened in the mid game here?
I mean, this is Team Liquid in a nutshell, though. Why they're so fun to watch. Every game is a banger. You don't know what's going to happen. I think their comp was pretty hard to execute, honestly. And so Golden Guardians clawed back in the mid game. I thought that was going to happen. I was not expecting that fight to go their way. And then to be able to end off it so aggressive.
That's right. Well, before we head on over to the lounge, we've got something to let you all know. As Summer Split approaches its peak, so too does our LCS cosplay contest. Our winning finalists will be crowned during the LCS Championship next weekend. But one of our creators is going to take home another $500 prize by winning the fan vote. So make sure you submit your picks by scanning the QR code on your screen. With that, let's head on over to the LCS Lounge.
What a banger for our first game. It's that was something. We're gonna have to start with the final fight, obviously, because at this point we were kind of saying we think GG are in control of this game. Victory is within their grasp, and it was not.
Yeah, I think in general GG kind of just got more and more gold, and the team fights were scaling really well. In this fight, especially after this Pop Blossom, I thought it was over. But Pyosik, after getting the Neeko clone and then rooting Stixxay, kind of just clutched this fight out.
Yeah, at first I liked the fight from Golden Guardians because Licorice did a good job peeling for Stixxay, allowing him to hit the moment he was pushing Summit off. So I was like, okay, that's a positive. The Neeko ultimate comes through. You're like, winnable. Yep. Then what you've just said happens, and then boom, look at that. That's hilarious.
I really wanted to see this gold graph. I was actually super curious about it because I figured it would look kind of funky.
This is it.
Yeah, I know you were joking, Treats, where you're like, Pyosik thinks he's cuz. We've seen kind of some LCK picks sneaking in. The Viego, one of them for cuz on KT, the Neeko, another one that ended up making a massive difference. So looking at both of these teams going into next game, what do we think they should adapt and change in draft?
I think in general, if I'm Golden Guardians, I'm happy with most in draft. I think that it's a bit too one-tricky in terms of Nocturne Neeko as a combo. I think they're not very flexible champs, and they can kind of only do one thing, which is like engage and fight into the enemy. So I think a slightly more flexible mid-jungle duo for GG would be the way that I would do it, at least. He did win lane against APA, but I think getting a 20 CS lead in this meta doesn't really translate into a win most of the time.
And it felt really difficult for Nocturne to impact it. He got the full clear that he wanted, matching Viego, but then we went top lane, didn't work. Got out, went bot lane, actually died. So the execution of the Nocturne side lane plays just literally didn't work, and it made it harder for them. So just might be easier to go back to something that was more comfortable that you played throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and by contrast, we did see Pyosik, right? That bot lane setup. Like, yeah, it's kind of rudimentary, but obviously you know that Nocturne's probably going to be going for the full clear. I guess you never quite know with River, but you're going to make that assumption, and it was a good setup. It was another good example of something we talked about at top of day with Pyosik looking like he has a much stronger communication with his lanes, and he knows a lot more, is a lot more confident about where he wants to go in the early game, and we'll see if they make any adaptations. I feel like TL come out ahead in this first game, but GG had some shining moments in there, so we will see what's up next after the break.
Ref, do you play League?
I do.
What do you play?
I'm a support. Or a Heimerdinger main.
Oh god.
Pick your poison.
Oh god. That's enough out of you, ref.
We got Leona.
살았어.
야, 천천히 봐봐.
니코 플래시.
니코.
아니야, 니코.
이자대 갈게, 이자대 오케이. 이거 이제. 나이스. 컴버 2 seconds. 니코. 안겨주게 얘도 죽여.
They're pushing for it. Nexus turrets in their sight. Nexus in their minds. Game 1 victory in their brains as they look for one more. Nexus turret 1 already fell. They're ignoring River and huhi. They're barreling and brute forcing their way. They find the kills. Oh my god! Table Liquid find one fight and they don't.
I'm on a mission and I won't stop. No destination, but it's worth a shot. Red Bull gives you wings. Red Bull gives you wings.
Dude, I know these noodles are your specialty, but they are just not hitting tonight.
I know. I want that.
Me too.
It's beautiful.
Breathtaking. Tiramisu.
Is there anything she can't do?
I wish I could reach into the TV and grab that fancy cake for you, but I've recently learned that's not how TVs work. Go for what you really want. Go for Grubhub.
We live with a genius.
Go for cravings. Go for Grubhub.